What is going on to all my yogis out there? And today we're going to talk about how to convert all the excess energy created in a yoga practice that is fragmented and floating around your body and energy sphere. Because I'm sure, as you guys already know, at the end of a yoga practice, the teacher and everyone go namaste and everyone's smiling and has a yoga high, but the teacher doesn't get up and give a disquisition on how to convert Pitta into Agni. But that's what I am here for. And I used to have this yoga teacher back in Las Vegas, and she used to say, stoke your Agni. But when you study classic and medieval yogic texts, there is actually a separation between Pitta and Agni. And I'm sure, as you guys already know, the three Ayurvedic doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And to live a sattvic and balanced lifestyle, you need to, balance all three of those. But if you just have excess Pitta in your body, and this is very common in 2024, because when you look at Western yoga systems that are very intense, like Vinyasa and Ashtanga or hot yoga, that produces a lot of Pitta. When you look at the ADHD mindset that a lot of people have because of social media, because of bad food, and just the general lifestyle we live, that produces a lot of Pitta. And then when you think and feel about how it is to live in a capitalistic society and trying to make ends meet and stuff, that creates a lot of excess Pitta too. And Pitta functions in the lower chakras and Agni functions in the higher levels of the higher chakras, as a form of superintelligence. And so if you don't do practical steps, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, all that Pitta doesn't get converted into Agni. And this is one of the most important and I would say under-talked about things in the yoga community. And if it's not converted, what happens? Well, there is a desire for food, for material acquisition, for sex, and things that exist in the first three chakras. And this may be surprising to some of you guys, but as a somewhat young man who has been in the yoga community since I was 15 years old, and as someone who grew up and taught in Las Vegas for a decade, I have seen the superficiality and fake signaling of enlightenment as a way to hide these inner lower chakra urges, for a long time. I've been to India and Bali and danced around with everyone, jumped around up and down. But there was still a ton of lust, engaging in psychedelic drugs and acquisition and negative mindsets and a ton of stuff that is really surprising. And what really stood out to me is that when someone goes to India, everyone feels good. You're out there, you're away from home, everyone gets to jump around and act enlightened. But when you teach yoga, I taught yoga in the same city around the same people for over a decade. And it will blow your mind that people who spend 3 or 4 hours a day doing yoga for over a decade are sometimes still just massive pieces of shit. And even worse, you see across the entire decade, maybe out of the thousands of people you've met and taught, a small handful actually kind of convert Pitta into Agni and then start walking the walk, because it's a verb. What do you do with superintelligence? If you gain Agni and access to higher chakras, what the hell do you do with it? I know we were told by the gurus or whoever that we just have to sit and meditate, but that's not it. That's not what it's been all throughout history. There are some talented individuals who we call artists and visionaries and leaders who automatically just have a ton of Agni, who are just functioning at a higher level. But for most of us common folk, we have to take practical steps to be able to convert that. And if we don't, we are going to be inflating the false self, the superego, and never accessing the true self. And more importantly, who cares about the false self, true self, but engaging in our divine purpose and our divine mission, because you need clarity and intelligence to see that. And then you need the energy, the Agni, to go and do that out in the world. And that's what really the Pitta dosha is about. This is the same for all the other two doshas too. You have Kapha, and if you have this lethargic Kapha, then you're down in lower chakras. You just want to once again be restful, just do nothing. But if you have Kapha and it's activated, then you have strength and fortitude, and you're someone that people aren't going to be able to mess with or sway off the path. And same with Vata, if you have a problem with Vata, then you are fragile and have problems and are scattered. And if you convert that into its higher consciousness elements, then you really gain the power to access higher emotions. And so let us talk about and I'm going to start with some more esoteric methods to convert Pitta into Agni. The first one being a visualization practice on some form of the divine. And I've talked about on this channel before, chakra meditation and yogic meditation, and that is actually one method we'll talk about in a second. But every single one of you guys should be meditating on the divine. And an easy way to do that is to get an image. I'm not religious, but it could be Jesus. It could be any Hindu god that you want to contemplate. It could be certain historical figures or gurus or stuff like that. And I want you to think about this. If you got a photo of a obese redneck who lives in Nebraska in America and is just not a great person, how do you think you'll feel about contemplating them? Maybe you'll learn about empathy and what they're going through and about how trauma affects people, but it's not going to lift you up. And this idea of being lifted up is so big in Eastern philosophy and actually in the West, because if you look at early modernist poets like T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, William Carlos Williams, what they did was start translating some of the material from China and India, and they figured out and really started to imbue into literature, and this changed the world, this idea of the objective correlative. And in philosophy, it's called the transcendental signifier, which is like, so like this book. So this book is Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov. But there is a book of bookness and some format in the universe. There's the highest form of a book, the perfect book. Like this book has markings in it and a stain, but there is a perfect form of a book. And if you contemplate that, instead of maybe the book that has tears or something, then you're going to have a different experience. And it's the same with the divine. And as someone who is a general skeptic of devotion and surrender, because of how many people I've seen get sucked into cults or kind of negative cycles of programming, let me just tell you, this works. There is nothing better to block out negative emotions and mindset and these things than contemplating a divine figure, because then as you're going through your day and you're met with these problems and these emotions and negative people or, whatever, you're functioning with them. You're like, yeah, bro, I'm rolling with Jesus today. But I don't know, Jesus, the contemplation of Jesus led to how many people dying. But anyway. The other thing you should be doing every single day is sushumna, if I'm saying that correctly, visualization. And what that is basically taking, doing an ujjayi breath and imagining a red fire. It could be any color, but red is the best color to start with according to the classical and medieval texts. A red fire, imagine your body and a red fire coming up the back of your spine, up to your head, and then coming back down again. It's this wave of fire. And this is a beautiful way, and probably one of my favorites and easiest to do to convert Pitta into Agni. And I'm going to be talking about yogic meditation a lot more on this channel soon and the specific techniques. But I'm sure you've heard of this before, but if you're not doing that every single day, then you need to, or you're really not converting energy. Next is general pranayama practices. So we just kind of talked about more meditative practices, but you should be doing nali every single day, the breath waves with your stomach. And if you don't know how to do it, it's an acquired skill and it may take you a while. Think of it as, if you're struggling, as something that may take a couple months, like no worries. You can gain a lot of the benefits of Nali without doing like the stomach wave that you see online all the time. Because if you think about it, that's converting Agni, converting the lower chakra energy, the digestive energy into something else, moving that energy. You should be engaging in Kapalabhati, which is light, quick, forced exhales with an automatic inhale done by your body. So, and once again, research that heavily. Pranayama is not just something to do because I said go and do it, but the higher form and the most advanced form of Kapalabhati is Bakishtra, and you should be very careful about that. I've known people who have literally ruined their brains and gone full space cadet and can never come back because they've done that too much. But Kapalabhati and Bakishtra are the best ways to remove excess fire or Pitta Agni from the body. You should also have Sankalpas, and I learned a lot of this from Gregor Mali. He doesn't necessarily explain a lot of this, but a lot of what I'm saying was from Gregor Mali, my favorite yoga teacher or yoga writer out there right now. Shout out to him. He turned me onto this idea about Sankalpas a long time ago, and I'll read you one of his. So what are your goals right now? I'm sure some of you guys, maybe you have goals in the yoga community, or you want to have a family, you want to make more money. Maybe you want to go big so you can just do yoga all day. Like, I know that's what I want. Like, I have another YouTube channel called Right Conscious. I think we just crossed 15,000 subscribers today. And that's where I put a lot of my energy, and it's where I have a business over there and all this other stuff. But my eventual goal with all that is to get enough money to actually fund a yoga studio. But I've had to let that go out of my hands. because, the affirmations I have on my wall right now that I think about, that I have on my phone, I literally post them in my car. Like, I'm weird, you guys. Like, I literally have a little note, index card in my car. Well, not the passenger usually can't see it, and I'm looking as I'm sitting in traffic. I'm like, oh my God. But one of them says, I let the divine speak and act through me. I deeply accept and love myself, and from that love, I share with others. I contribute to the lives of others from an infinite reservoir of love and creativity within me. Because if I do that, guys, I show up to my other channel and to this channel occasionally and post videos every single day. And I'm helping people with their journey to become conscious writers. And so I don't think about the money. I just think about contribution and being inspired and just giving what I can. Like, that's why I don't script videos. I don't have any bullets. I just speak straight in these videos, and it's all just from pure inspiration. I woke up today and I was like, you know what? I really want to talk about how to convert, Pitta into Agni, because that's something I've been lacking on lately. And I've taken it up over the last couple of days, and I've had some of the best energy, productivity, and clarity that I've ever had, and made huge changes in my life. And I'm like, oh shit, this is something I always come back to, but I never hear talked about. Anyway, you should have affirmations and goals that only surround connecting with the divine and speaking out the divine and, creativity into the world. Because once again, if you do that at a high level, you will have all the money, all the love, all the things that you'll ever need. And it's just general psychology. Once again, we see this with the people in the yoga community. I know many people who are consciously on the exterior, these enlightened yogis, but when push comes to shove, behind the scenes, when things get hard, they are some of the biggest narcissists and crazy people I've ever met. I've been involved in romantic relationships, business relationships, friendships with yogis who you maybe see on Instagram, and they have all the followers, all the life. They write the beautiful captions, but they are more toxic and abusive than you could ever believe. And lo and behold, they're not converting Pitta into Agni. They're not doing visualization and thinking about affirmations in this way, because it requires change, because it's not easy. You don't just, oh my God, I'm going to start acting from the divine. No, you are challenged and you're forced to change, because doing it with a, furrowed brow or a grimace on your face isn't it. When it's unconscious, then things come to you and it becomes automatic. This is really, thank God I got into this when I was young, because right now I'm really on this journey to change the world with reading and writing. So I quit yoga. I didn't quit doing yoga, but I said, I'm not going to be a yoga teacher anymore. I'm going to stop posting on this channel. I deleted my old Instagram that had 10,000 followers or something on it. And this was back in 2016, my yoga Instagram, and said, you know what, I'm done with all this. And I decided to become a normal teacher, a high school English teacher. And it's a pretty hard job. I work with kids that are mean, don't really care, have a lot of problems and trauma coming into it. And I open my heart to them. I am always kind to them. And for a while, it tested me. But now, when they sit and they call me a retard, or they throw something at me, or get in my face, or acting crazy, it's nothing. I most of the time, I should say, I'm not perfect, but I receive it with love and empathy, and take care of the situation and move with it. As a lot of other teachers are reactionaries, and they're stressed out, and it's, teaching has ruined their life because of all this negative energy coming toward them. And so that's the eventual goal, that you want to live these principles unconsciously. And that will take years and requires transformation. I had to give up so many parts of my ego. Having a 14-year-old sit and talk shit to you every single day and test you and do these things and throw stuff at you. And that you can get them in trouble and suspended, but then you're like, wait, this kid I just know they're probably maybe poor, have been physically abused. And if I send them home, if I send them away, I'm just increasing the odds that one day they may end up in prison. And so I need to deal with this. This is my responsibility. I'm not going to go send them elsewhere and get them in trouble. I'm going to connect with them. And my God, out of the 10 kids that do that every single year, by the end of the year, I've got nine out of 10 of them on my side. So view all this stuff too, like I always say, and same with people, writers, 3 to 5 years. These things don't happen overnight. It's not like stretching and getting flexible. The next thing, is changing your diet. And guess what, you guys? I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I was for years, but I currently eat meat that I've hunted and killed because I live in the American West, everybody. But no, really, adopting a vegetarian and vegan diet is great, obviously, for the ethical reasons, but also it enhances your spiritual energy. Like, I will say that on a vegan and vegetarian diet, my spiritual energy, my emotional capacity, what I could feel and do in that sense was 5 to 10 times higher. But I've had to moved back to meat because I have a very vata disposition, and without meat, I am ungrounded. I can't think. I feel very weak. I feel brittle. I can get injured easily, and it's just not worth it. Like, I live out here in the West. I live with the animals. I commune with the animals. I spend time out in nature every day, and, give and take. That's how nature works. Anyway, generally having a diet limited to fruit, vegetables, some ghee, nothing processed, nothing oil. And if you need to eat some meat occasionally, like, you don't need to eat meat every single day. Like, I can go a while without eating meat, but then when I'm getting ungrounded and crazy and feeling I can sit down and eat some elk or something, and it's so nourishing and so nutrient dense that it can usually help me for a couple of days. And this actually kind of gets down to another point that a lot of people miss about why the vegetarian diet doesn't work. And this is something that I found, is that if you're sitting and doing yoga, intense vinyasa yoga 7 days a week, you're going to, first of all, have a ton of excess pitta and be thrown into a fight or flight mode all the time, which is super unhealthy. But you also need a ton of fuel. You're also going to need all this, to re-energize you. And vegan and vegetarian diet doesn't necessarily work for that, because these guys back in the day weren't doing that. Let's just be honest. Their asana practice were almost nothing. They were pretty sedentary people, these yogis who were writing to us. And so what I found, once again, is a lot of my physical and mental energy, when I would make up for all the calories I was using from these intense yoga practices, then something took a hit, and was my mental energy and kind of my physical stability. So we haven't shown too much on here yet, but you can be flexible. You can be fit. You can have a yoga butt or a six pack and not be doing hardcore yoga or hardcore workouts. It's insane. You don't have to get a yoga high to experience yoga. A yoga high is not actually yoga. That's you scattering your energy and not being in a sattvic state. Anyway, don't get me going. Speaking of sattvic states, you shouldn't be engaging in recreational drug use. I'll just say it like that, because I do believe in the therapeutic power of psychedelics and shamanic power. But when you look at like ayahuasca communities and stuff, they don't do it very often. They do it once a month. It's not, and they live a strict lifestyle, a vegetarian lifestyle, and they focus on community and these things. They're not sitting and taking doing an ayahuasca trip and then smoking weed and hitting the bong every single day. Same with caffeine. So weed use, caffeine use, when used daily or too much, just scatters energy and really kind of pulls you away from your general purpose. And I'm not a Christian. I think all drugs should honestly be legal, but it should be limited to very deliberate things. That is your drug use. Most of the time for personal growth or therapeutic things to get you in a new mind state. And the last thing is just general negativity scatters your energy. Like, if you've ever had someone toxic in your life, I was talking about earlier, I've been around toxic family, been in toxic relationships, toxic friendships, toxic workplaces, toxic yoga groups, like Jesus Christ, and been around people that were super negative in these things. And also I've been a person who's been negative, who's put so much energy into negative emotional patterns. And that's something I try to do on this channel, is like, even though I sometimes talk about kind of the negative aspects of yoga, I'm not necessarily attached to that. It's just, I see that as just objective reality. Anyway, you have to really figure that out, because it scatters energy more than anything. Like, at the peak of my spiritual life, like at one point I didn't have a job. Well, I did have a job, but I could have been engaging, or maybe not engaging, in criminal enterprises. So I wasn't really working. I was doing yoga for hours a day, perfect lifestyle, 8 hours of sleep a night, perfect diet, taking all the supplements, getting my vitamin D every day out in the sun. Everything was great, but I was in a toxic relationship, and I had less energy than I've ever had before. Like, there's been other times in my life where I've been partying or eating terrible, or when I was in university, like staying up and drinking caffeine and like grinding stuff out and not sleeping. I had more energy then than just having a perfect lifestyle, but a toxic relationship. And so it's real, you guys. Like, when I look back at the photos of me then, like, I had bags under my eyes and I was like hollowed out, and like, it was really, really bad. One other cool thing to do is those affirmations I talked about earlier, do them before yoga. As you're sitting and about to start your pranayama or yoga practice, you should be saying that stuff, because the Western competitiveness, and really everybody now, it's real. And classic and medieval yogic texts couldn't account for that. They didn't understand that. They didn't know that we were going to push asana all the way and then want to be the masters of meditation and pranayama because you can make all this money. Like, capitalism wasn't a reality back then. So we need to put ourselves in check. And it's not by, like at the start of yoga class, like, think of an affirmation. Like, no, like, sit down and meditate, read them, think about them before you do really anything spiritual, because That will save you a lot of stress. That will keep you in check, because if you go too hard, then that's just more scattered pitta that you have to go and find to convert later. And so once you've accomplished this, you guys, you're on the path of finding your divine purpose and really living it. And I can't tell you what that is. I'm going to make more videos on how to find that. Once you kind of reach this level of knowing that you're converting the pitta and you're doing a lot of these exercises, then there are ways to gain the visions and direction that you need in your life. And it's honestly really crazy, you guys. Like, just to go a quick emotional, personal note here, I really wanted to be in yoga, to be that guy. And at some level, I was going to be that guy. If I had 10,000 followers in 2016 and with an active yoga account, what could I have done with that over the last 8 years? But when I did all this and I started visualizing and figuring out my divine purpose, I realized that yoga was something secondary, that this thing I had made my entire life and my identity, it wasn't it. And I was lying to myself. And something I've noticed is that we all fall in love with yoga. We love yoga. And so the ego thoughts, what the ego tells you a lot of the time, and this is what it told me until I really got down, was open up a yoga studio, help people, do all these things, post on Instagram. And it's maybe bad right now, but it's in the long run, it's to help people, and like all these different thoughts. And then when I got deep down, I was like, wait, this isn't my divine purpose. It's a part of it and it's going to be in the future, but I'm forcing this way too hard. And so I had to make the painful choice. I had to sit. And I quit being a yoga teacher. I went all in on reading and writing and helping others more in the intellectual realm. And I can't say that I don't miss it, that I don't think about it every single day. But a lot of the times your divine purpose is going to put you where you can help the most amount of people. And as maybe you've noticed with some of my other videos, I have a very polarizing and interesting message on yoga. And I don't think back then people were ready for it. I don't know if people are today. But I think that the universe pulled me away from yoga, because if you go watch my videos from 2016, the De-Occulting Yoga podcast, I wasn't very well spoken yet. I didn't have the intelligence. I actually was too lost in yoga. And now coming back, maybe I'm just being arrogant here, but I feel like I can actually speak and put thoughts together and have really synthesized a lot of the stuff I've learned. And and I've had 8 more years of experience in yoga. And now I feel like I can make a bigger push in the internet realm and in the, IRL realm to make kind of a positive impact in yoga like I've always wanted to. And so this stuff doesn't function in a linear way. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but I just want to encourage you guys to, follow that path and trust in the divine, that one day it, will all make sense. So thank you guys for being here. I want to start crying, and I will see you guys in the next one.